all of the countries agreed that we must do something to make sure this ASEAN is safe and possibly drug-free.
Every country members, they're very unique in terms of the situations. And what we normally sit down together is always looking into the best practice of things.
For me, the final end is to make sure that ASEAN is not a safe haven for any of these drug traffickers and any criminal activities.
Hello everyone and welcome to IPAcast, Amplifying Voices of IPA. IPAcast explores the world of ASEAN through conversations with parliamentarians, prominent figures and experts who will share their insights and experiences on a wide range of topics. And we are currently in Kuantan, Pahang, Malaysia, as IPA is having the 8th meeting of IPA Advisory Council on Dangerous Drugs, or well known as IPACOD. From the 9th until 12th of June, we've just finished our meeting today, and it's hosted by the Parliament of Malaysia and the State Legislative Assembly of Pahang. Now, in this episode, we are diving into the theme Parliamentary Cooperation in the Fight Against Drugs, Insights from the 8th IPACOD. And joining us today is our distinguished guests, Honorable Datuk Dr. Ramli bin Haji Muhammad Noor. He is also the chairperson of the 8th IPACOD and the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Malaysia. Assalamualaikum, YB.
Waalaikumsalam, Secretary General.
Apa kabar?
Bagus.
So we're just saying, how are you? So he's really, he did fantastically. So I'm sure he's more relieved, and we're glad and having the honor to actually have you on this particular episode of IPAcast. What we're going to actually do is we're going to have a discussion more into understanding with regards to this meeting of IPACOD. Right, so YB, you presented this year's theme during the 8th meeting of IPACOD, which is Uniting Parliaments for an Inclusive and Sustainable ASEAN in addressing contemporary drug challenges. Now, as the chairperson of IPACOD, how do you see this theme capturing the urgency and complexity of the region's current drug problems, especially with the rise of synthetic drugs and digital trafficking?
All right, my dear Secretary General. Looking at the theme, it is very unique in a sense. I would portray it in terms of policies and at the same time personal experience that has interrelated to these factors. Right? If you look at the history of drugs, drugs was criminalized. It is an offense. In certain words, legislation throughout ASEAN proper itself, drug is something you are involved in crime. Right? Then you look at the second perspective, crime. Crime knows no border, right?
Correct.
So we have 10 ASEAN countries, 10 different laws, 10 different understanding, perceivedness of these drugs. And on the main picture of it all, I presume the coordination and the working togetherness of this ASEAN Parliament in making legislation and law to combat effectively on these drug issues and menace. So this platform of IPACOD is one great platform for us totally in ASEAN, whereby we can make sure there is no safe haven for those who are involved in illicit drug business and crime.
Absolutely. So we've basically had 2 days of meeting, right? Really, I would actually say the conversations, the issues that was basically raised, and also the fact that we've had each member country reporting and presenting their country report. So it was basically interesting to actually hear from individual with regards to all this. And today, as we actually conclude the IPA Quad meeting, the 8th IPA Quad meeting, we also witnessed the deliberation that 2 days. Now, in his opening remarks, I would like to actually recall as well, our president of IPA, His Excellency Tan Sri Dr. Johari bin Abdul, he touched with regards to the transformation of IPACOD as a strategic adaptation to crime nowadays, necessitating responsive parliamentary actions. And reflecting on this, YB, could you highlight some of the key outcomes or agreements perhaps that was basically reached during today's discussion, also yesterday's discussion, on the future direction and transformation of IPACOD?
Secretary General, we must come to conclude this. Right. On the whole, all the nation that was involved in the meeting agreed drug is a menace.
Yes.
Drug is a problem in Southeast Asia. And you can look through the reports and such presented during the meeting, all are taking a positive attitude in combating drugs abuse and drug trafficking and in related crimes to it. And the uniqueness too, there are solutions to how to rehabilitate those who are involved and who are to a certain level as comparatively. I mean, some define it as a sickness, some define it as an addict, some define it as a criminal perspective. So all agreed, but one thing for sure, all of the countries agreed that we must do something to make sure this ASEAN is safe and possibly drug-free. You look at Singapore, they have this point of view that they cannot tolerate drugs, not a single aspect. You can look through their presentation. While other countries like Malaysia leaning towards more humanitarian human rights, classifying towards those who are addicts, who are misuse of drugs, are sick to be rehabilitated and give a proper guidance to be out of drug dependence. Same goes to Thailand, same goes to Vietnam and a few other countries. You can see this diversification, but at the end of the day, everybody is looking at protecting us in ASEAN to be drug-free and to fight the best solution to fight this menace.
So it is really true because like when we actually look at yesterday's discussion, especially during every single our members really reporting, every country members, they're very unique in terms of the situations. And what we normally sit down together is always looking into the best practice of things, even to the fact that when we actually look at different types of drugs, they have a different name, and we learn from that. And we acknowledge the fact that, from our expertise as well, we learn so much. Every single year we talk about this. And now we're looking into the rapid globalization in terms of digital transformation and increasing cross-border mobility, transnational crime and cyber-enabled drug trade are becoming more complex and deeply interconnected. And we basically look at it as it is on the rise. It is on the rise. I mean, new names, new different crime that is all interconnected and it is all linked. Now, given your background as a former police officer, you have actually had, to be honest, a tremendous background experience. And now, as the Deputy Speaker of the Parliament of Malaysia, your opinion for members of Parliament's role in adopting a more holistic, coordinated, and forward-looking legislative approach is addressing these evolving threats. So what are basically your advice or what are your thoughts with regards to this, YB?
All right, Secretary General, looking through this, those past 38 years, I was just an enforcer. I enforced the law. we relate it to drugs. Laws regarding drugs. We go out, raid, arrest, we execute. But when I sit in Parliament, I notice that whatever we execute and whatever offence that is approved as criminal by Parliament might be some countries they are not criminalizing it. For example, I mean not telling any country because the law are different. But with this platform, ASEAN IPA Court, we can compare. Some legislation from other countries might not be in line. Their standard may be different in terms of weight of drugs and how possession and such. So with this platform IPA Court, we can coordinate and make sure as the final, for me, the final end is to make sure that ASEAN is not a safe haven for any of these drug trafficker and any criminal activities. And there are laws that can assist. For example, mutual act for trans border crime and such, which certain countries has not rectified.
Right.
If under this good platform of IPA Court, these laws can be rectified where one law in another country can be exercised in another country depending on certain procedures.
Correct.
That's my point of view, to make it easier and to make ASEAN a safe haven, not a safe haven, I mean to say, not a safe haven for any criminal activities, not only in terms of drugs, but other criminal activities. If you look at our technology aspect, now you don't have to sell drug frontally.
Correct.
I can be a dealer in one country, I can be a buyer in one country, and I can transport these drugs melalui the courier or certain mechanism. This, how do you arrest a person in another country when you don't have the power to do so?
Correct.
This platform will allow a mechanism, the cooperation of countries in ASEAN to form certain guidelines, certain procedure, certain protocol where we can execute this type of offences and arrest those culprits that are involved.
I think it's really good to actually see the fact that I think from different angle, because YB, being a law enforcer, and then now on the other side to actually look into those, you can actually really share, and that's what we actually you did. You also share, both thoughts, and I think sharing that is really important. And you're right with regards to borders. How do we can actually discuss this much better among our member
Crimes
parliaments?
has no border, but yet we are content with border, where we sometimes have to ask permission and such to facilitate all this, to make it easier.
Yeah, I think we've come to an end. I think it's a really good topic for conversation, and and we see the spirit of ASEAN in a way that we want it to be a more free from drugs as well, a safe haven. I mean, like for people, our youth, be away from drug users, and nowadays we never know what's next.
Yeah.
And I think YB sharing your insights on strengthening parliamentary cooperation in fight against drugs and transnational crime. We on behalf of IPACast as well, we'd like to actually say thank you for this and sharing this with our audience. And we hope that today's discussion has shed light on the vital role of legislators in addressing these complex challenges across the ASEAN region. So we thank you so much for listening to the 17th. So please tune in. And this is our 17th IPACast, and more episodes that's basically coming. And don't forget to follow our social media. Thank you.